In the Republic of South Africa, Mamuluku Kubayi-Ngubane has outlined tourism-related activities under Alert Level 2 of the risk-adjusted strategy and also offered directions for the sector. Thank you very much, Minister. Let me check if we have questions. I'll start first with calls. Ignatius, do you have calls?
Thanks, Chairperson. It's Ishmael. We do have a question on the line. Witumelo from Tourism Update. Please go ahead, Witumelo.
Hello. I would like to ask for the Minister, what is the update on the Tourist Guide Relief Fund that started last month? Is there any update on that?
Your question again, Witumelo?
I'd like to ask if the Tourism Minister, what is the status of the Tourist Guide Relief Fund? Have the tourist guides been paid out? And any further relief for the tourism sector as we start to reopen?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have any caller, Ishmael?
That's all for now. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. On the WhatsApp line, Ignatius?
Thank you, Chair. Currently, no questions.
Thank you very much. Minister, the question that was asked, Minister is giving the question to the Director General. Did you?
Thank you, Tatanabele. Witumelo, the Tourist Guide Relief Fund, thus far 3,116 tourist guides were paid for the first month. They will be paid for the next 3 months. There is another batch of about 3,000 that is going through further verification with the UIF. We just want to make sure that there isn't a possibility of double dipping. There are some tourist guides that we did identify that were actually paid UIF, which actually gave us a bit of comfort that it means there is a number of tourist guides that are actually employed out there. So that really was a good observation from our side. Further relief. We all know about the funds that come from the Treasury initiated credit guarantee facility, which they are implementing with the various banks. There has been some changes that were brought into that particular scheme, purpose of which was to also allow for borrowing of funds for operational purposes. We would encourage that the establishments, the businesses, actually consider accessing that particular facility. Last week, Minister actually brought the Banking Council together with National Treasury to actually outline what these new provisions are and how the funds can actually be accessed in a webinar that she brought the industry together. So we do encourage that the industry should actually take advantage of this now that we know that we have already opened for business. It actually makes sense that one can then get into that facility for purposes of operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Director General. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, Chair. We have a follow-up from Witumelo, Tourism Update. You can go ahead, Witumelo.
I'd like to ask the Ministry of Tourism, what are the regulations for Airbnbs? Are Airbnbs currently allowed to operate underneath level 2? And how are they going to ensure that they follow the regulations and protocols?
Thank you very much. Other questions on WhatsApp, Ignatius?
Thank you, Chair. I have currently 3 questions. One question from Richard from my MyDB Media. The question is: will scenic tourism flights in aeroplanes and helicopters be permitted now? and I have Marke Vermaak from AFP. Minister, there's any indication on when borders will open up, allowing international travel? And then I have Marvin Charles from Cape Achas. Minister, regarding your engagements with the restaurants, what challenges were laid out? And regarding the curfew, did the restaurants perhaps raise any concerns about the curfew? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Ishmael, do you have a caller?
Yes, thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
We do have one caller, Suren from MoneyWeb. You can go ahead, Suren.
Good afternoon, Minister. I just wanted to query the restrictions on numbers in restaurants. Is it still restricted to 50 people, or is it related to the 1.5 meter social distancing rule? Because there seems to be some confusion in the restaurant industry regarding what the cocktail minister mentioned yesterday, that it might still be restricted to 50 people. For example, some restaurants have bigger premises and can host more people, but is it still restricted to 50 people?
Thank you very much.
Chairperson, we have another caller,
Let's take the other call.
Penuel Damini from Sowetan. You can go ahead, Penuel.
Yes, my question, thank you very much. My question is simple. What is specifically going to be offered by South Africa that is unique at the time when international travel is allowed? I know we are not at that phase, but at the time that international travel is allowed, which is the given that will reach that stage, what is the department thinking that South Africa can provide to the rest of the world that will set us apart from our competitors?
Thank you very much, Penuel. Colleagues, if there are other questions, hold them. We'll then give them on the next round. Minister?
Thank you very much. Let me start with Witumelo. Under level 2, all accommodations are allowed, and the directions that we have issued in terms of compliance, they apply to everybody, with no exception. So if you are to book, the people who are hosting are expected to comply with all the directions that we've issued. Keeping distance, keeping record, ensuring that the masks are worn. If they are providing breakfast in terms of the sitting area, they must ensure that not more than 50% in terms of their floor space, they comply with that. So they all accommodation. There are no restriction. If you look at the regulations, there are no restriction for anything in terms of accommodation within level 2. In terms of air space, in terms of tourism, those activities fall under Minister Mbalula. The flights, the charter flights, there will be they are the responsibility of Minister Mbalula. I wouldn't be able to speak on this. In terms of the activities, the directions are issued by the Minister of Transport as they are regulated within this. The question on the date of international travel, I always say when I talk to my sector that at the beginning I got myself into trouble because I used my own projections to determine how would be able to open, and then there were a lot of challenges, so I don't want to get into trouble. So in terms of the risk-adjusted strategy approach, there are no dates. We don't work on dates. We work on terms of the risk. So government assesses the risk to see whether the risk is high. When the risk is high, more restrictions are put, then assesses the risk. When the risk is low, then the restrictions are lowered. Our wish is to say, as we come in the following either weeks or months, we should be able to see our international tourism activities coming, both inbound and outbound. But we are cognizant of the constraint, the difficulties, but also the fact that globally, because of the numbers of the pandemic, the incidence of COVID-19 pandemic in our country, many destinations or many tourists might be cautious. That's why one of the things that we are doing and we are highlighting in our tourism recovery strategies to say, want to put in place norms and standards to give comfort to an international traveler that they can come to South Africa. So that's in a nutshell. When we are ready, government will announce when the borders will be opened, and we will definitely give an indication as tourism, what does that mean in terms of the tourism activities. For now, we are focused on what has been opened, and as we've previously said, it's one step at a time. In terms of the challenges with the restaurants on curfew, yes, it was raised with us. And you'd remember that the restaurants raised this matter with us when the curfew was at 9 p.m. The curfew was moved to 10 p.m. specifically because of the request by, amongst others, the restaurants who highlighted the difficulties because at that time they were saying to us, with 10 p.m. curfew, you are cancelling the dinner. We went and negotiated and presented their case, and that's why the curfew was moved to 10 o'clock. It was out of the agreement with the restaurant industry and the colleagues who made that input. So we do believe that this matter was resolved. The restriction of 50 people in terms of restaurants, I was checking with the DG, our understanding, I'll check again. Our understanding is that there's no 50 people in a restaurant restriction. We are emphasizing the space between the tables. So if you put the spacing in terms of allowing that there must be 1.5 between the tables, it's important to allow safe distancing. Not that there must be, I don't remember, we've never issued directions, even under level 3 enhanced, we've never said that it's 50%. 50 people, it's relating to gatherings. If you look at the regulations, all gatherings were in terms of your weddings, what we call conferencing, meetings, those we do have directions directly that speaks to that. In a restaurant, because once you start saying that, as you say, the spacing, if it allows for spacing, then we are able to manage. But we'll look into that. We do not have large groups of restaurants that are able, because if we start saying this, somebody can be scared to say, hey, because the restaurants, it means they are going to be a source of the spread, because if you have a restaurant that has capacity to carry 2,000 people, mean they can have 2,000 people. No, we do not say that, because it will really make Minister Mkhize worried when he hears something like that. We do note that our restaurants, in terms of space and capacity, they don't carry many people, and we are able to ensure that with the regulations and the directions that we have issued, they do make sure that we are able to still preserve the lives and also the livelihoods. A question about South Africa that was asked from a colleague in Sowetan, just to indicate that, as I said in my input, the statement, if you look, we have done an analysis looking globally, and that's why we talk about today's traveler and tomorrow's traveler. Today's traveler, for example, as we say, is cautious about moving from one country to the other. Previously, somebody could easily come to South Africa, move to Zimbabwe or Zambia, move to another, maybe Tanzania. Today, we do note that some of the travelers, the feedback we are getting is that they are very cautious because they are worried that if you move from different areas, you might not even be able to track where you got the virus, or you might even put yourself into more danger. Now, what they are looking for is a country that offers diversity of products, where, for example, if they want to go to the sea, they are able to access that. The one nature reserve, they are able to get that. The one scenery, they are able to get that. And because of our diversity in terms of products, you can either you are an adventure, or you are a person that loves romance, or you are an active person that in terms of sports, we do have all that in terms of the product. So we are comfortable in terms of destination South Africa as a product to be able to sell it to the global market. We are able to say within this diversity of our products as a destination, we can talk to young people, we can talk to couples, we can talk to families with small children, we can talk to singles, we can talk to senior citizens. We've got everything that any particular category is looking for. We can talk to business people in terms of our conferencing. So those are the things that puts us as a destination on the map and one of the most preferred destination as we look in terms of the analysis. What we will be doing is to be able to ensure that we let global travelers know what South Africa has to offer, and those who have not come into contact with this beautiful country can be able to know what we have to offer. But more importantly, if you know about South Africa, is the hospitality. Our people remains our key resource in terms of being able to be hospitable, look after our tourists, because out of those, many who have been here, who have left, have carried the message to say, somebody must come. I'm one of the people in terms of global platforms that I talk to people. And I had a group of friends who were intending to come to South Africa and COVID stopped them. But they've not literally stopped. They've postponed their trips and they're looking forward to coming to South Africa when the borders are opened. And because of that, we are relying on some of them who have been here as word of mouth beyond what we will be doing in terms of our targeted marketing to be able to attract international tourists to come here. So we are not only sitting as tourism department and the portfolio, waiting the day the borders are opened. We have started in terms of our work. As we say, we started with intra-provinces and we said one step at a time. We started preparing for inter-provincial movements. Now, our work begins today. So start preparing, and others already have started to prepare intensively for the international borders and to receive the international tourists. When they arrive, they will find a South Africa that is warm and that has so much to offer to them. But until then, we are relying on you South Africans to be able to get out and support the tourism industry. But not only support us, we want you to enjoy this beautiful country. There's so many things that you have not seen. There's so many things that we have not done. And I think it's time to explore this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Colleagues, can we take just the last round of questions before the Minister then closes the press briefing? Let me check from the callers. Ishmael, do we have callers?
Thanks, Chair. We don't have questions on the line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last line on the WhatsApp line, Ignatius.
Thank you, Chair. I have Marvin Charles from Cape Achas. It's a follow-up question. He's saying, should a restaurant not comply with the curfew, what will happen or what will the consequence be? I have Helen Ilov from Custom Local Media. She says, I know that the gazetted regulations specifically exclude nightclubs from the establishments that may be open. What criteria differentiates a pub, a bar, or a tavern from a nightclub? I have Atwal Dlamini from Alliance News. What does the department hope to achieve from the tourism recovery strategy? How does it differ from the relief package put together for the industry already? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. This was the last round of questions. Minister, thank you.
Okay. Let me start by saying let's not tempt the restaurants not to comply. So we're not talking about non-compliance, we're talking about compliance. I do talk to them quite regularly. We have an agreement that we are not going to not comply. So we must comply with the curfew. Consequences is that the owner will be arrested together with the manager. That's what it means. and then the justice system will take care of that. So once they don't comply, it becomes the matter of the justice system and the police, no longer the matter of the Minister of Tourism. So that's what Minister Bekicele will be talking. And we had a conversation this morning. He did emphasize that I need to make it clear that colleagues, please comply with the curfew, so that we don't create that he has to have large trucks of vans on the streets having to carry people. We didn't want that. And that's why I've always said to the sector, our responsibility is to make sure that we do not regress what we have already achieved. So I rely on you. I can do my part as the minister, but you have to play your part as well. The issue of nightclubs, yes, are not allowed currently in terms of the regulations. I do not, as a Minister of Tourism, have authority over the nightclubs, but the logic in terms of the discussion, nightclub is something that is at night, isn't it? Maybe I'm just being simplicity. Just in my understanding, I think the relevant minister can explain who licenses them, but my understanding is that because it's 10 p.m. curfew, and nightclubs normally would go until early hours of the morning. Because they start normally arriving at 10, 11 o'clock. That's the time where the curfew has already started. I think that's the simplicity, but I don't want to get myself into trouble. It's not within my area of work. My area, it's relating to the restaurants, and that's why even on the bars, I'm referring to the bars that are within the premises of our attractions, the premises of the tourism facilities, that they need to comply. 10 o'clock, even if it's a bar in a hotel, at 10 o'clock they need to close. They need to have closed because it's a curfew time. Curfew starts at 10. How do we differentiate the recovery with relief fund? Relief fund, it was a once-off activity where we were giving money. The recovery, I'm not so sure if the colleague has seen our document. Recovery talks about long-term strategy, about what we are going to do to get the sector back working. Part of this opening is part of the recovery. Starting when the recovery, we talk about having, firstly, the domestic market coming to life and getting the activities back on track, and also putting together the norms and standards for us to be able to say to the traveler abroad, we are safe, but also here at home that you can know that you are safe to travel and you'll come back without worrying about that. But also looking at internationally, because as you see, we have lost a lot of money as a sector. We have lost jobs. We have lost businesses. That's the reality. And part of why the recovery is important for tourism is to be able to say, how do we come out of this pandemic and become better? How do we create an environment that will make that those who have lost jobs regain their jobs back, those who have lost their businesses are able to find a way to come back into the businesses. In the recovery, we don't talk about stimulus because we do not have the fiscal space to do that. We're talking about marketing the country and having people like yourselves traveling, spending your money in the tourism sector so that tourism businesses can regain their status, can be able to become viable again. Also, talks to international market where international tourists will come, increasing our numbers so that when they come and spend their dollars, their euros, and the other currencies that are stronger than rand, we are able to make sure that the contribution is able to rebuild, but also to see growth in terms of the tourism sector. So the tourism recovery strategy goes beyond what we have done in providing a relief fund. It goes about rebuilding the sector in terms of the supply and demand side. It looks in terms of the entire value chain of the tourism, direct and indirect activities. Because when we have tourism, for example, the restaurants operating fully, the hotels operating fully, then you know that, for example, sectors such as agriculture have a market because we buy from them as a sector. So it's about, that's why we talk about the tourism sector being one of the pillars to grow the economy of this country. Because when we thrive, a lot of sectors that are dependent on us will be able to find value and will be able to also find a way of coming back actively. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Minister. I know I said that was the last round of questions, but it appears there is one question that they want to ask. I'm not sure, is it through the landline or through the WhatsApp? Let me check with Selimali. Is it through the landline?
No, Chairperson, it's through the WhatsApp.
Ignatius?
Thank you, Chair. I have one question from Vuyo Mvogo from ENCA. I hope this one relates to tourism. The question is, what is the position on international travel of athletes? The women's cricket team has called off their tour to England. That is set for September. But individual athletes have managed to leave the country for competitions. Please, can we have clarity? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I think Minister can just answer it from
just to indicate, that's Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Minister Mthethwa's work.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Minister. To all the viewers at home and those who are listening on their devices, thank you very much for according us your time for this briefing. Minister DG, we thank you very much. The press briefing is adjourned.